Welcome everyone to a new series of strategy and stratagems Civilization 6 Rise and Fall expansion. I welcome everyone to episode 1 where we'll start a new campaign for this new expansion. Unlike Warhammer 2 Total War, we're not going to make a long-winded introduction with the settings of the game because I want to get straight into the game and start discussing strategic conditions and how to act, but we'll just go over the settings of the game very quickly. So we'll be playing with the expansion Rise and Fall, which came out just yesterday. I will be using a random civilization because that is my preferred method of play. I like to consider my situation with the cards dealt to me rather than choose, I really like this civilization, so I want to be broad and flexible in my approaches to playing various civilizations. Furthermore, we're going to be using King difficulty just to give the AI a slight advantage at the beginning to give us a greater challenge, because Prince difficulty, as I found, is basically flying almost on easy mode. Furthermore, we'll be playing on standard game speed so as not to make the campaign too long. Next, for the map type, we'll be using continents, which I think is a very nice flexible map to play on, which gives enough variety of strategic thinking, both naval power and land power. And furthermore, we'll be playing on a large map just to give more space and more potential for tension and considerations because of the number of civilizations. And for the advanced setups, the only thing that I've done is turned off score victory, because we are intending to play this campaign up until its natural conclusion with either culture, domination, religious, or scientific victory. So, without further ado, let us get into Civilization 6 Rise and Fall expansion. I hope everyone enjoys. We are playing as
from the first stirrings
Rome.
Of life beneath water to the great beasts of the Stone Age, to man taking his first upward steps.
Rome.
Come far. Now
let us, while we have the time, let us consider the special capabilities of Rome. So we have Trajan's column. All cities start with... so that just speeds up production.
If you can truly get all roads to lead to Rome, yours will be an empire of great riches and luxuries. Surely then our citizens will proclaim you as their best ruler, the Optimus Princeps.
Right, I just got enamored by Sean Bean's amazing voice. Thank you, Ned Stark. Okay, right, so Trajan's column is an ability which denotes that Rome's cities start with an additional building that goes in the city center, and typically that's monuments at the very beginning. Furthermore, all roads lead to Rome. All cities you found or conquer start with a trading post. If in a trade routes range of your capital, they also start with a road to it. Your trade routes earn +1 gold for passing through trading posts in your own cities. So this ability of all roads lead to Rome indicates faster road construction, as well as a emphasis on, first of all, trade, because it's beneficial as cities, as they go through each trade post in each city, they get extra gold yield. So it's basically thinking through elaborate trade routes to improve our own wealth. Furthermore, we get the Legion, a unique land unit. I do believe it replaces the Swordsman, but we can double check that. And then the Bath is a unique district which replaces the Aqueduct, and it provides housing, I believe, and I think amenities as well, or luxury resources. So let's now get into the game and see what land or what the game has dealt to us to deal with. So, I'll read through these notes about the Rise and Fall expansion very quickly. So, welcome to Civilization 6 Rise and Fall. This guide will introduce you to new features in this expansion. Additional information can be found in the Civilopedia and Advisor. Earn historic moments by accomplishing great feats in the game. Each moment gives you points towards your era score and can be reviewed in your timeline. Era score indicates how well your civilization is doing in the current era. So they've basically made each technological era, aside from just being a window dressing definition of, oh, you're in the medieval era because you're using medieval technology. You can actually define each era with moments, so to speak, that sort of, I suppose, define your playstyle of sorts. That's what I'm considering. This is the first time I'm playing Rise and Fall. I played Civilization 6 before, uh, at launch, and I gotta say, at launch was quite a different Civilization 6 experience versus a Civilization 6 experience after a year's worth of patches and DLC. Okay, next, track how your era score is progressing to avoid a dark age or earn a golden age for your next game era. If you fill the blue meter, you will avoid a dark age. If you fill the gold meter, you'll earn a golden age. Golden and dark ages give you bonuses and can affect the loyalty of your city's citizens. Interesting. So they've reintroduced golden ages into Civ 6, and they've also added dark ages. So basically the normal goal is to avoid Dark Ages because, Dark Ages, due to the connotation, obviously leads to problems in the Empire or your civilization, so we'll try to avoid that. Okay. And obviously go for Golden Ages and possibly Heroic Ages. Okay, next, loyalty. Loyalty is a measure of how committed your city citizens are to your civilization. If loyalty ever reaches zero, the city will rebel and become a free city, open to claims by militaries or loyalty pressure. And I'm really interested in figuring out this new mechanic for Civilization 6, because it adds a new dimension of how to struggle with other civilizations, where you can force their city to rebel or break away from the civilization itself. So there might be some interesting play there. Okay. Next, governors can stabilize a city's loyalty. Governors also have unique abilities that unlock through titles. These give special advantages in the city where the governor is assigned. So this is an interesting addition, as governors are, I suppose, there to specialize your cities. And second of all, I think there's the introduction of this governor's system is a method of soft capping, um, the player's expansion from 10, 12, 15 cities, though I suppose it's still possible, um, if done correctly. Governors now sort of lay a soft cap, like, do you really want 15 cities that are with about half of them being vulnerable to loyalty, or do you want to aim for a more limited number of cities and aim for more efficient city placement? So I'm really intrigued how governors are going to factor into this. Next, alliances are now specialized, and each type provides a distinct advantage. Over time, you can enhance an alliance to provide even more powerful advantages. This is interesting because they're complexifying and making diplomacy something more interesting to deal with, since previously you could do a declaration of friendship and you could trade resources, but nothing, there was no real true incentive to ally aside from saying, oh, we're allies in words only, but not actually. So I'm intrigued to see how this will play out, especially how the AI will react, because we know that most strategy games have difficulty in implementing an effective diplomatic AI. Right? Civilizations can band together and declare an emergency when critical events happen in the game, such as a nuclear strike. The emergency is declared by other civilizations against the offending player. There are rewards for whichever side is victorious in an emergency. I think this seems to be like a late game method of civilizations that are, say, weaker, or um, I suppose it's a method of other civilizations to get together and deal with, say, warmongers or dangerously powerful civilizations, something along those lines. But I'm intrigued to see this, but this will come in probably much later in the game. Then finally, the city banner has been updated to provide clarity and easier access to critical information. Click on your civilization's icon to see more information about loyalty or the governor portrait to manage your governors. Right? Obviously, I've always found Firaxis to be quite good in their UI layout and really providing necessary and relevant information to the player at a glance. I really like it. And then finally, will your civilization rise or fall? How will you rule in Sid Meier's Civilization 6? Right. Good. Let's get into this. So let us explore and try to understand what our initial conditions are. Okay. First of all, right, what continent are we on? So we have Gondwana, we're on Gondwana, and then we have Rodinia up here to the north. There's this mountain here. Okay. Settler, right, all along this river is good for, is all fresh water, so good for housing. Aiming to settle on a river, of course. I'm a big fan of that, especially early game. Right, let's see, tourism, no tourism appeal. The mountains and the hills are all good with appeal, but it's not something that we will be worried about for the time being. Okay, map options. I'm going to turn on yield icons so that I can understand the layout of the terrain better and see where our capabilities lie, or what the terrain is in essence going to give us. Okay. Next, I don't really use strategy view that much. I like this because it's pretty. Okay. So we got the standard warrior, we got the standard settler, nothing special. Okay. Let's look at the terrain around us. So we have cattle to the south. We have woods to the south, which provide food and production because it's woods on a hill. Got hills and woods to our east on plains. Okay, we've got a mountain range to our north. We've got more hills to our west. And then we have a luxury resource of irrigation. Oh, sorry, not irrigation. Excuse me. Dyes. We have dyes as a luxury resource. And then we have stone to our north. Okay. So to me it seems like a nice mix of food-heavy resource hexes as well as food production slash production focused hexes. However, before we settle, we're going to move our warrior to give us a bit more line of sight. Okay, we also have copper down here as a luxury resource, but if we settle right here and now, that's going to be 1, 2, 3. It's going to be out of range of our maximum city extent. Okay. Let's see. Let's move our warrior first before deciding on a place to settle. The one thing that I'm concerned about is where do we move to? I like this position on the river, and since we don't see any other rivers nearby, um, I mean, we don't have to necessarily limit ourselves to rivers. It's just that we're going to have to worry about housing for later on. But maybe then we can construct the Bath district sooner, or like go for it sooner. Let's see, so it's recommending here, here, or here. Maybe that information will change. If we go here, our line of sight is going to be blocked by these two hills and this hill, but will probably give us line of sight to here, sort of giving us better view of what's to the east, and south. And let's see, are we on a hill? We are on a hill, which will reduce the movement. Okay. Or do we go west? Because if we go to this hill, it's sort of blocked by the line of sight here, I believe. Or at least our line of sight isn't that good. Let us move down the river with our warriors. See what we see. Horses. Strategic resource of horses. Okay. That makes things interesting. Let's see, if we settle here, we'll expand to the copper, and we'll expand 1, 2, 3 to the dyes. I'm thinking we settle actually on this cattle resource. First of all, it will become part of, obviously, the city center, and we won't have to worry about pasteurizing it. And we have a lot of production in this case, from these woods to the west, from the horses to the east, and then we'll expand onto the copper, which provides gold and production. Okay, let us move to this area. I like this zone and the potential for expansion, plus we stay on the river. And this is very interesting. 1, 2, 3. And we have access to wheat for later in the game to increase our food. Okay, this is good. So far, I like this position to an extent. It's, I think, relatively well balanced with good production to increase our speed of construction. Good. Okay, at this point, let us look at research. So Rome, from its abilities, is an expansionary style of civilization. We obviously don't necessarily have to play it that way, but that is something to keep in mind. So what are the technologies that we have that can allow us to maybe maximize that trading and aggressive or expansionary capability? So pottery allows harvesting of wheat and rice. Not exactly necessary, because it leads to writing and irrigation. Irrigation we don't necessarily need for the time being. We will need it to um, to get these dyes, but that's not going to happen all that quickly. So we do have horses right nearby. So if we take a look at the animal husbandry, it will proceed towards archery. Camp pasture and plantation improvement within 4 tiles is wonder provides camp improvement. Okay. Well, we don't exactly have a place for a camp. Okay. Then obviously it leads to horseback riding, and then riding leads into gold. Then ironworking leads to... Right, so if we go mining, bronze working, ironworking, that leads us to our legions. Masonry is sort of a more defensive. For the time being, I think the one thing we can sort of cut out of our consideration, unless our warriors suddenly discover a coast somewhere, is we can ignore this top line: astrology, celestial navigation, sailing, shipbuilding. That we can ignore for the time being. It's not something we need to consider because we're not on the coast. And astrology we don't have to consider because, yes, we have dyes, which adds faith, but we're more interested in practical expansion of cities and maybe militaristic action rather than concerning us with developments of the mind and faith. Let's see, watermill adds chariot. This terrain for the moment doesn't really look exactly all that good for chariot warfare. I'm considering, let's see, right, that improves right from rainforest, from mountains, government plaza. Let's see, if the city is constructed here, we can construct a possible science district in around these mountains, which improves it. Maybe, let's see, if we deploy there 1, 2, 3, there might be, I think these 2 mountains will add, so that's possible, but that's later because we would need to expand there first. Okay. I am kind of tempted to go not exactly animal husbandry, but I'm actually tempted to beeline towards ironworking to get legions, so that we can, first of all, unlock where iron is, which increases production as well as gives us access to the resource of iron. And um, right, and also we can build the encampment, which increases production culture, which is always nice. And I think to establish our expansionary position, we should start with a military focus and then switch to research and later to money. We might think about doing animal husbandry maybe as the map is discovered a bit more. We'll see. We will see, because this will lead to archery and horseback riding. Because the reason why I'm thinking mining into bronze working to reveal iron is to know where to would we like to expand. Whereas if we do animal husbandry, yeah, sure, that allows us to build pastures and whatnot, but that's not really our concern for the moment. Yeah. So I'm thinking we focus on bronze working, and then after we get bronze working, potentially shift to animal husbandry and archery, or just go straight into iron working. Um, Then with that said, let's see, engineering, we have the baths. Let me remember my, let's see. Provides a city with a source of fresh water from an adjacent river. Like, cities that do not yet receive up to 6 housing. Cities that already have existing fresh water plus 2 housing. Must be built adjacent to the city center. In either case, the bath provides an additional plus 2 housing and plus 1 amenity. Must be built adjacent to the city center. Right, amenity, that's for luxury resource. Well, we have access to 2 luxury resources anyway from this position, so that's no problem for the time being. So engineering we can keep as a consideration, but I'm thinking sort of iron working and then writing and currency with an optional animal husbandry, archery, horseback riding, possibly. So let's research mining. Um, yeah, we'll research mining into bronze working. Um, Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, good. And then for code of laws, let us see what we have here. So code of laws, verified in barbarian survey from recon exploration, god king, urban planning. I really like urban planning because the faith in gold is not bad, but urban planning and production is hard to come by. Trader. This okay, so here we have a difficult decision to make because we can either go foreign trade, which unlocks our trade, uh, but that our trade network requires more cities as well as contact to other civilizations. So it adds plus 2 gold from. I think foreign trade is something that we want to go once we have completed our beeline to ironworking. I think once we've established our military, then we can work on um, establishing our trade, I think. Let's see, early empire would reduce kind of purchasing, plus 50% settlers. That's obviously really nice. Mittani plus 2 loyalty, right. Open borders clearer, right. Unlocks the borders and enforce borders. Gives us a, or alternatively, there's craftsmanship. Ilcum plus 30% production towards builders. Right, that's spearmen, melee, anti-cavalry, and range units. Right, that's legions, spearmen, and archers. Military tradition, not exactly something that we're looking for. But let's see, state workforce, unit maintenance by +1. Classical wonders. Maybe we do go foreign trade into early empire. Foreign trade, Because our focus isn't necessarily on builders, our focus is more on cities. Not necessarily big cities, but cities nonetheless. So I think this is what we're going to go for and start establishing trade routes. Right. Right. Well, we'll reconsider once we've researched Code of Laws how things are looking like, because obviously this is our initial thinking about this particular approach, but the terrain might say otherwise. Maybe like this is a decent starting location. There will be nowhere else where there's a good place to expand to. So we'll need to get a read of the terrain first. Okay. So next we have great people. Um, well, great people. We're not really concerned about great people for the moment. Um, Governors, right, these are the new governors. They each have their own promotions and abilities. Right, the Castellan's military, diplomat is loyalty. Loyalty, amenities. Yeah, loyalty and envoys. The cardinal is all about religion. Steward is, I think, about um, money. Surveyor is about exploration and production. The educator is about science and culture. Um, and then the financier is obviously about money. I think the steward maybe is more about, what is the steward about? More about resources. And then Reina the financier is more about money. Okay. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. And then history timeline, well, no historic moments yet. But we shall make our history with our conquests and expansions as Trajan of Rome. Okay, let us move into the next turn and see what happens. I mean, not much is going to happen, but we'll see what happens. Anyways. I forgot, I suppose I forgot to turn off the time counter here. Well, maybe I'll work on that next time. Okay, before we settle, let us explore further down south here with our warriors. Interesting. Jade. So we settle here, 1, 2, 3, that'll expand there. This is one thing that I miss from Civ 5 when they do give you the recommended settlement location. They tell you why. Here they just say recommended settlement location, destroy the horse resource, even though you won't exactly destroy the horse resource, but you understand what I'm saying. Let's see. If we settle here, that'll give us the horse resource. 1, 2, 3. We'll miss out on that luxury resource. I'm kind of liking this position here on the pasture, because its potential for expansion will expand. Well, we'll have the horses in the borders. We'll expand later to the dyes. We'll expand later to the jade and to the copper, and then later on to wheat. So I think we settle here. Yes, we will settle here. So that we may get started, because we need to settle quite early on as Rome, because we need that extra speed, so to speak, or that extra um, um, what's it called? A head start. We need a head start if we're going to be expansionist. Down the city, Rome. Excellent. Right, full loyalty. Right, let's just quickly look at the interface. 100 loyalty. Right, +1 amenity. 6 housing rights, 6. Okay, choose production. Well, there isn't much to produce here. Because we already got our monument because of Trajan's ability of Trajan's column. So I'm wondering, do we go for a warrior or a scout? I'm thinking a scout, just because it's slightly faster, and I'm more interested in the lay of the land as quickly as I can rather than military focus. I don't wanna force myself into only one option of military. It's just something that we want to consider. But the scout, I think, gives us a good lay of the land first. However, let's see. Let's purchase tile. How much does scout cost? Yeah, we won't have 120 gold then, so we will build the scout. Okay. I think at this point I'm going to call the episode here and end it there. And next turn, or in the next episode, we will continue exploring the land, seeing what the continent around us offers for potential for settlement and construction. I thank you all for joining me for this coverage of Civilization 6 Rise and Fall expansion. I hope you enjoyed the content. Stay tuned for new episodes coming very soon. And I hope you have a good day, morning, evening, or night, depending where you live. And see you next time. Thank you.